This week, we're talking about one of the most important principles of graphic design, which is hierarchy. Hierarchy is how you let the viewer know what is the most important thing on the page, where they should look first, what is the second most important, so where they should look second, and then where they should look third. It also is used to differentiate between different types of information on the page. So we can quickly scan a page and be able to tell if it's a quote, if it's an image caption, if it's a title or a heading or a subheading or paragraph. So we use different principles applied to our text to be able to get the different kinds of hierarchy, this kind of like grouping and ruling. So you have a couple of reading assignments this week. Well, one is we did talk about hierarchy last week in chapter 5 of your book in the elements of graphic design. So please review that before you do this assignment. And then I've given you this section from the book, which is not required because it's pretty much available online. And this is Thinking with Type. And I'd like you to read the selections below from text. You can just click on this link and read through all of these. And you'll notice the last section here is on hierarchy. So these are the different methods, the different things that you can do to create hierarchy, because we want there to be different ranking, so to speak, of the text on the page. So the heading should be more important than the paragraph. But you don't want to do this by like having everything a different color or everything a different font, because that gets to be crazy. You also want to have some unity on the page. So what are more subtle methods that graphic designers employ to be able to get this hierarchy across? And that's what I'd like you to go through in this section of text. And then down at the bottom, it's also going to talk about hierarchy and take you through several different examples of variations of hierarchy. So please read through all of that and review chapter 5. A couple pages into chapter 5, it talks about hierarchy, but really everything in chapter 5 is really important for this. Then your first homework assignment, it's going to be one artboard, 8.5 by 11, vertical layout in Illustrator, 9 boxes each. They're 2.5 inches by 2.5 inches. And I want you to use some text that is 9 lines long. And what would be perfect for this is some kind of exhibition or concert opening. So something that would have a heading and then some dates and a location and think text like that, because all of that really needs to have some hierarchy because it's different ranking of information. For example, if it was an announcement for a band, the name of the band versus the name of the venue where they're playing should be treated differently versus maybe the dates that they're playing or some maybe like a little quote about the band. All those things should be different. So in my example here, I've used an exhibition opening. So look for something like that, or you can make up the text. But basically, we're looking for a couple of different short lines, so not like one long paragraph, but they should be 9 separate short lines. And this will all make sense also after you've done the reading. But the first example, I want you to put the text there, but no hierarchy. Now that doesn't mean it should look bad on this in this 2.5 by 2.5 inch square, because first of all, I want you to think about each one of these squares as if they're their own individual pieces of paper. But I still want you to think about the placement of this text. So pay careful attention to the margins and the relationship between the text and how it sits within the space and its relationship to the edges. In the next 4 examples, I want you to employ one form of hierarchy that you're going to get from the reading. And don't just copy what I have here, pick your own, do it in different ways. But see, each one of these uses one method of hierarchy, such as a contrasting color or a contrasting weight or alignment. But at the same time, I still want you to pay attention to how things are aligned on the page. I actually think that this has a little bit too much space on the bottom. So, and if you're looking at these as an example, I think they're pretty good, but I would maybe move down so there's a little bit less space in the bottom. Okay, so the first one, no hierarchy. The next 4 have one type of hierarchy, and you're going to write what method of hierarchy did you employ right below it. Notice also I'm using a sans serif font, so a font without any sort of embellishments, and that's what I'd like you to use as well. Then the next 4 are going to have 2 or 3 methods of hierarchy. And our goal is always to create something that looks good. So even if it's 3 or there's no hierarchy, I want you to still try your best to make things legible, to have what I call scannability. We can quickly look at the information and we can see what's what within our first glance. So to do this, it's pretty much the exact same as you've already been doing. We're really not doing anything different, but I'll just quickly take you through the setup. So I'm going up to File, New. And I could use this one that the default that's set up here, 8.5 by 11 inches. That's fine. Or you could put it in manually here, and it only needs one artboard. Now, the only thing that's different with this one is that there is a contrasting color in the background, and my boxes are white with no stroke. What I did is I created a separate layer and I put it on that layer, and you're welcome to do that. So I'm going to take the rectangle selection tool, and I'm going to make a selection over my entire page. And then over here in my properties, I'm going to click on my fill. And if you don't see your properties panel, you can get that from the window panel. And I'm just going to choose a light gray, such as this. And for my stroke, I'm going to put no stroke. No stroke. Okay, and there we have it. And now I think I'll create a new layer. Let's just scoot my properties over to the side. I'll create a new layer. So that layer is going to have my background. I'll create a new layer, and that's where I'll make my boxes. So again, with the rectangle marquee, and I hold the shift key down to lock my proportions. I want it to be 2.5 by 2.5. And you know, if you can't get it exactly perfect here, then you can go over here to the properties panel and just punch in 2.50, sorry. And there we go. And then in my properties, I'm going to switch that to be white with no stroke as well. All right, so I'm going to duplicate that several times onto the page. Remember, if I use Control, it switches, or Command on a Mac, it switches me back to this selection tool, which is the tool that I need to be able to situate and place these boxes where I want. And I would then, oops, I was holding the wrong key. Sorry, I need the Alt key if I want to copy and paste these. So you need to have a total of 9. And you're going to also need to use your guides to be able to align them correctly, and so you have even spacing in between them. So make sure you have your rulers visible, and then you're going to use your guides by dragging them out and give everything even spacing. So that's really all there is to it. Everything else you've already done. I will point out, just with the text tool, what you could do for this assignment is you could click and drag with the text tool, and it gives you that filler text. And then with my selection tool, I could move things around. And that's kind of an easy way to start seeing what your layout would be. But then you have to go in with the text tool and erase this text and put in the text that you want to have. So I really think that that should be all I need to cover for this, because everything else is pretty much the same as we've done before. See, if I wanted to select one line of text, I could, and then I could change its color by going over to my properties panel. So that's how you do that. Okay, so that should be enough, and you're welcome to do this all on one layer if you want. I think it gets a little complicated, or maybe split it out into 3 layers. So the background is on layer 1, your white boxes are on layer 2, and maybe you have your text on layer 3. All right, have fun with the assignment.